I'm going to stand up here for a little intro, but if you can move wherever you want.
Great.
We're recording this too, so I can just move the camera wherever you want.
Awesome.
Good morning, Ryan.
Hey, how are you?
Now that I'm at Agora, when I see like freelance gurus tell me about like the speech they're giving,
Are there any handouts today?
I don't probably from they're gonna not for me.
I read your emails. Agora.
Sorry.
Oh, that one I think is so cycling.
Yeah.
So my
Ryan, Thursday. You got lunch plans?
I can't Thursday.
Thursday or Friday?
Friday, yeah.
Friday it is.
Okay.
Well,
So, yeah,
I'll
yeah, Friday's good.
sort it out.
Special cell phone box today. So I got the other box.
Oh my
I'm not kidding. Throw them.
Alright, be careful. You know what you do. Oh Jesus.
What? I'm not sure. I thought you were joking at first.
Yeah, yes.
I'll go last.
Our house already got cracked windows.
What is that? I've been wanting to ask. I'm like,
It's just the thing to hold the. I usually have a smaller box for everyone's cell phone. We confiscate everyone's cell phones, but today I forgot to put the box. That's my pattern interrupt today, guys.
That's good. Wow. What's in my handbag? Is that good enough?
Hey Fred. Can't touch mine is on. I have the reach.
Stay down.
Yeah, I would be the one to be like, Lloyd, remind me.
That's what you meant.
I'm Lori. Boy.
I was waiting for that.
Oh, Haller. H-A-L-L-E-R. Yeah. My email is really easy. It's just Lori@lorihaller.com. So nobody ever forgets it. Unless you get
Exactly. This is probably one of my worst sticking points. Design. You
Oh.
study the words, you never ever think about it.
I'm hoping this really resonates.
Boy, you don't look happy about that. I had my home cooked breakfast over the process.
I thought you were going to bring me one too. That's what Brian said. I'm like sitting here waiting.
I screwed up. I love your pants. They're awesome. Your pants.
Oh, thank
They're
you.
awesome. Have fun on it.
Yeah, it's in that black box. Right here.
Here.
You drop it in slowly.
Yeah.
Drop it, maybe.
Delicately place it in
Oh, there you go.
Thanks.
Can someone get the door? So Joe's in Disney World, so it's just me today. I'm going to kick off with a little mini lesson, and then Lori Heller's here, and we're waiting for Megan. They're going to give a talk about design, and then we have Jim Amrine back, and he's going to give another follow-up talk on, from the copywriter's perspective on working with designers and his perspective on design. So to start off, I want to follow up on something I talked about a little bit during the legal session. I think it's a very important thing. I've talked about it before, but I think it's worth revisiting. I think it's one of the most powerful tools when it comes to ethical, emotional manipulation, and that's reframing. So I want to give you guys a little visual example of what I mean when I talk about reframing. So I think it's going to be very useful. Number one, as you kind of think about what your big idea is, reframing is very important in that. Number two, when you construct different sales arguments in your copy, reframing is a really useful tool. And number three, when you interact with people like legal, reframing can be extremely valuable. So I'll give you a little example of what I mean by reframing. So that's a frame. You can maybe imagine it as like a picture frame or a window in a house, or it could be, looking through the frame of a lens of a camera. Inside this frame, I want you to imagine smoke, cinders, ash, noxious fumes. Like, what kind of a emotional impact does that frame give you? Is it a positive one or a negative one? Negative frame. I have a negative view of that. So around this frame, I'm going to draw another frame. About the same level as my children. So. And you can see the smoke we're talking about, the negative emotion for, was actually the smoke from a chimney of a nice winter landscape. Tree, frozen river here, and a happy sun. Does that give you a positive or a negative emotional impact? You can see my design skills.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, I'm shy now, so I'm not going to be able to go up.
Draw another frame, and somebody shout out like an ordinary investing idea. It could be one you're working on, dividends. So this is your ordinary idea. Around this idea, we can draw a frame, and maybe we'll call this frame the opportunity frame, or maybe we'll call it the extraordinary frame. Now, what are all the things we could put in here to make dividends extraordinary? It could be like the fact that the Canadian pension program actually uses blue chip dividend strategy And it's our main strategy in picking stocks. So therefore, you can enroll in something called Canadian Social Security and make $400, $700 a month. Does that make sense? I'll ask you kind of a ethical, moral question now. And this kind of relates to what we talked legal last week. If I obscure this or cover this, am I doing anything? Am I lying to the prospect, talking about Canadian Social Security by hiding this part of it or obscuring it?
No.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what we do in our business a lot of time. We'll cover this part up, but we're not lying. We're not distorting the truth. We're not hiding any. We are hiding something, but it's for a very strategic purpose in the fact that once they buy the product, they're going to find out how it fits. And the reason why we do a lot of this is people have different emotional associations with a lot of the ordinary ideas we have. Either they find them boring in this case, or if it's options trading, they find it frightening or risky, or etc. So, does anyone have any questions on this? Does it make sense?
How do you incorporate this framing into a design / copy synergy? That's in there. Okay.
I didn't actually. I was more following up, I think, with legal. And how we interact with legal is very useful because sometimes, unless you show this to legal or explain this, they might get confused. And they basically admitted that up there. They'll be like, why are you talking about Social Security? So you got to draw the connections for that. It's also very useful when you have these kind of negotiations, like Jim talked about last week, when you have kind of semantic arguments sometimes with legal, like, you can't use the word Social Security, because like that in their mind, that frame is a naughty frame, right? You expand that to call it state Social Security, and you can reframe the idea. It's also, a very useful way to create something new. As you know, what's the phrase that was used? You guys should know it by now. New and different is better than better. Yeah. Okay. Did anyone learn anything? We learned something. Megan, what you learn?
I learned it's nice to have like a visual of like how you guys are writing your copy. I think sort of what you were saying, Jim, like with how you frame that within design. These are the types of things that I know I'm learning and my design team is learning. So like try framing your idea like that when you're working with them on your promo. And I think that's really, really going to help with them. Oh, I understand like why you don't want to reveal this right now or stuff like that. Because sometimes, we're just trying to, our whole purpose is to communicate ideas. But sometimes with the copy, we don't want to communicate everything right off the bat. So I think like try framing that with them when you're having those types of conversations with them, like how do you want your charts to look, how do you want your reports to look, all that type of stuff. Because I think that just having that like 2-minute conversation is really going to help them understand what you guys need.
Yeah, so the mediator communication is the response you get. So when you're dealing with customers, the response you want them to get is to be so curious and excited that they want to buy so they can see what you're talking about. When you're dealing with design and legal and people within our own business, you need to show them this, what you're talking about. It's kind of like you do the Penn and Teller trick with them, right? You kind of reveal the magic trick and give it away. Like I said last week, you can give them the spoilers. So they understand what you're trying to accomplish. Because we're not trying to sell them. They're already part of our business. We're trying to sell customers. So that's all I got. Nice.
Excellent. I like your stuff. So, Megan, are you maybe you want to come up here and go over the,
My little boring section of the.
no, actually it's not. I'm going to preface what Megan is going to go over today. This is something that I brought to Agora when I first started working with them, I guess back in the fall. And that is having procedures and things set up and in place between when the copy comes in so that it always comes in through the funnel to the design team the same way every single time for formatting. And you'll see when she presents it today. And I just wanted to also say that I have found in working with companies, I do this all over, domestically and internationally, you can save hours and hours, days and days, if you take so many of these things out of the equation, leaving both of us just having to concentrate on the big idea, the audience, who we're talking to, why, what does the design look like. So if you wipe all this stuff out, it's just going to make it so smooth and easy. And that's what I'm here for, because money is time, and we all want that enormous win in the end.
Yeah, so these are just like really simple, like copy format Word document guidelines, and it kind of sounds a little boring, but like Lori was saying,
It's not.
I know, it's very important, and it actually ends up freeing us up like a lot of time. It ends up getting freed up, and the reason why this came about was like copy editing right now. Kate Ferguson does our copy editing, right? So she goes through and her goal is to just make sure the entire Word doc, whatever whatever ellipses you're using, is the same throughout the whole document. But she's doing that like Word doc to Word doc. There isn't like across everything she can go through one time and make this change. So she has to go through it multiple times, see what you're doing the most, and then go back and then reformat it, and it ends up taking up a lot of her time, which it's not super necessary, and this is stuff that Lori's found and that we've found to just work the best anyways. So that being said, we know that some people probably have like their preferred way, and if it doesn't match with this,
Like a style.
It's hard for me to think of an example. Like maybe what you want italicized. We have like rules about what we want italicized. If you have your preferred way, just make a note at the top, and if it goes against any of these ways, totally fine. This is just what we're going to do moving forward, and just to make the copy run through copy editing faster and all of that. So it's nothing crazy. We're just solidifying what M dashes we're using versus N dashes, and what type of apostrophes. We always want to be using the curly ones versus like if you're seeing the straight ones, those are the ones that get thrown in there sometimes when we're coding. They shouldn't be in there. We're going to keep an eye out for these. Copy editing is going to keep an eye out for these, and if you guys keep an eye out for them too, we'll just be able to like across all of our copy, it will look way more like professional and just like have that little bit of polish on it that right now is kind of fluctuating depending on the promo. I wasn't planning on going into like the weeds with it and like getting into like detail, but if you look at the 5 checkpoints, like that's really where the meat and potatoes of this is. It's just very simple guidelines that we're going to be using, and like I said, if we just kind of hold each other accountable to be meeting these standards, it's just going to make the copy fly through much faster, and
It's very, very typical. I mean, it sounds like a lot of people are new to writing and this type of stuff. Sometimes some of the clients that I work with, they will send me a document to review before I design, and I'm not even writing a lot of the copy. It'll be the writer. It will be 40 pages on styles. So this is just a simple style that we've set up for Agora. It looks good. It reads easily. I don't know if you guys, probably the biggest one is, those little dashes, the long dash or whatever. A lot of people in this industry, especially for finance, those in the ellipse, they use them again and again and again, and you're probably doing that. If they're all over the place and one is a short dash and is that a hyphen, one's a long dash, there's a space before the word, there's not a space. Constantly, even the A-list writers will send in copy, and it'll be, 60 or 7 pages for some of these things. It'll be all over the place, and that doesn't matter. Is it going to make the sale or not make the sale? Probably not. But Agora, we want to, stand out as very professional, the best, top notch, and we're trying to make people trust us. So if even our writing and, the product name is this way and then the report's that way and then it's not that way, that is just going to be a mishmash. So every possibility or chance that we have to just make ourselves shine. And the sad thing is these oldies don't have very much to do at all, and they will rat you out constantly, call customer service, point things out. It's simply ridiculous. I don't know if you know that. Sometimes They will even mark up things and send it in. Maybe not to Agora, but many, many companies I work with, especially in the health sector. So that is just, we want them to
Yeah.
understand what we're talking about, trust us, sign on, give us their money, and like that. So
Yeah.
this
You
will
don't want to distract them.
annihilate that.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it's a great job. These are very good. Do you hate any of these?
No, I actually already do. This is almost exactly right.
Yeah.
The M dash, some people might not in Word understand that there are a couple ways to do that. I'm not an expert, but the way I do it is I type when I get to the last letter of one word, I hit 2 dashes and start to the next word, and it'll give me an
Yep.
MF. Then I go back in and add space, space.
Yep.
Mhm.
If there's a shortcut to that, I haven't learned it.
I haven't learned it either.
Yeah. You know what you can
Yeah.
do too is just, and making it this works for you, is you just put, your word and then a space and then dash dash a space and a word. And, I can even,
Do an M dash.
well, but
Word, not
if you just do something the same way the whole
We'll know.
time, right.
what that means.
Copy editing can just find and replace
Yeah,
it. So
that's
we'll know
so-
when we're like, okay, well, obviously this is supposed to, this is in the middle of the
Yeah.
whatever.
So that'll save you time. Yeah.
Another way you can do it is just hit quote and alt, hit 0151.
There you go. You're right. It's something simple like that. Great.
I'm an old dog, it's true.
No, that's, does that help?
I think I do it the same way though, so don't feel bad.
Right. I just don't know.
Yeah.
Space, space.
Yeah.
So Megan, are you gonna be able to hook me up to the Apple?
Yeah.
Great.
Turn on the.
Great. Great, and I sent you a new file that I think is gonna work and resonate better to this
Because
particular.
I agree. How do you turn this guy on?
No, I'm gonna do a lot more photos and visuals, and I think this is good.
This is gonna be interesting.
Yeah, and you know what, like, even if we can't make that work, my screen's pretty big, and I have pretty darn big copy in here,
Well,
so, oops,
We'll make
sorry.
it work.
Okay,
It's
good.
gonna work.
Everybody, we're gonna go out to lunch now, and once we come back.
Yeah. Maybe we'll have it figured out already.
Yeah, so, while she's making that work, I could probably interject a couple little things that might be helpful. The main thing that we're going to discuss today is a point that perhaps you haven't had the opportunity to talk about. I am a creative direct response designer. I own my own agency, and this is what I do is grab the attention of the reader, no matter what kind of reader it is. I might be selling high-end luxurious face cream to older women. I could be selling supplements to somebody with memory or prostate problems. I could be selling these newsletters to, all types of people. No matter what, when you pair the designer and the visualist or the creative with the copywriter, it's this beautiful and unique relationship. And definitely, if you know how to do it right, that's where you're going to get those $20 million sales, where you're going to get, more, the increases every time. It's when it's a disconnect, the reader can't understand the copy because it's not paired properly with the right design. So if you're trying to write in a fear scenario, and then somebody's just taken this really light hand with these girly fonts and pale colors, that's not going to resonate to the reader. So since people are so inundated now with so many things constantly, you gotta, remember where your reader is most of the time. We're talking online here. They're just sitting at their machine, or their computer, or looking at their phone or their tablet, and your email happens to come through, or they went online searching for some help or something. But you have to remember that they're sitting there trying to read something in a particular position. So the right copy and words, like you've been speaking with Ryan and Joe about, coupled with the right design, the colors, the excitement, how do we drag them down those, 50 some odd inches? Can we use subheads? Are they in color? Is there a photo here? Why is there a photo here? A chart, drag them down, make them stick on. And that's what you can do when you work so tightly with your designer. And it doesn't have to be a million meetings or anything like that. A lot of times people will simply write notes in the margin or on their little thing of copy, and it will say, Lori, I was, or designer, whatever. A lot of people will address me directly because we know we're going to work with each other. Oh man, this is big fear. In my research, I found out people are so nervous about this, whatever. Can you make this part really big? Do you have to be a designer? No. But do you know what the big, huge point is? Hey, I want captions under all photos. That's how Clayton Makepeace tells me. Yeah. Give me a caption under every photo. Once you find the photo, then I'll write the caption. Here's subheads, stuff like that. As much intimate back and forth. I don't want them to understand this yet. Don't show them this yet. Show them there. Then when you show the report, great. I want them to seem like there's a huge library. I want it to feel like there's value. Those little, it's going to take maybe 10 or 15 minutes. Those notes will make you shine, and we all the way home. We want to be the designer, the creative team. We're right there by your side. We want to help you, and this is the way to do it. So Ryan, how much time do we have? Like 30 minutes maybe? Or?
It's up to you. Yeah. as long
Okay,
as-
great. Am
30 to
I
60.
going to be able to click from there? Okay,
I
great.
didn't know where you wanted to.
Yeah, and Megan, do you want to say thank you for making that work?
That's okay. Because you say
I wasn't touching the movie at all. I think you guys did more. Anything, Ryan, or anything you guys want to talk about before I go through this? Or?
Jim's thinking some more thoughts. I have some quick thoughts here. I'll move over to the I just have my own opinion working with designers, and the way I look at it is kind of like 4 different ways you can work with a designer.
Oh, that's good.
One is you know exactly what you want, and you're gonna basically lay it out and show the designer exactly how. And that you must have some background in design if you're that kind of person. This person's with strong opinions, right? So in that case, the designer knows that's exactly what you want because you go and you basically lay it out. The second way to do it would be that you don't know what exactly it is you want, but you have some real clear models. And in that case, what you do is you actually you can show the designer similar kind of pieces to have them
Exactly.
to work with.
A link or something.
Right.
That's a great idea.
The third way to do it is if you don't know what you want and you don't know, you don't have some specific examples or models, you could tell the designer the kind of emotional response you want. It's greed or fear or something like that. And so I think that's real helpful too.
That's really helpful.
The fourth would be you don't know what you want and you don't know how to tell it to them, but you're going to be pissed off at them when they can't read your mind. Okay? So don't be the fourth bucket, I guess is my point. That's all I got.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. And that's the way I get forms exactly in that way. I will tell you to the fourth way that he set up. The one where he was saying, if you don't know at all how you want it to be, that is fine and dandy as well. So what I've been working with the design team for the last 4 or 5 months is my 3-part copy read. I'm going to tell you the overview really quick. In the end, what I'm training them to do is to do this all in one fell swoop. They're not, at the beginning, train them to do it in 3 parts, but here's how it goes. Number 1, you read it, you print it out and read it as the designer or the creative, just to read it. So you understand all the copy and if there's any notes. So you mark anything there that comes up as what I call cold copy, where it feels like it goes off track. I kind of like to circle warm copy as well. Boy, I'm feeling good here. I feel like I'm catching on. Because don't forget, at that point, I'm just like the audience that you're speaking to. So I take note when I go off track. Some of the best writers I've worked with Obviously, they've been working on this copy for 3 or 4 months. They will hit a snag down on page 45 where they got a little tired, a little whatever. I am such a huge benefit to them to say, like, you know what, I feel a little confused right now. Thank you so much. And I don't know where you're going with this. I am just like that Joe Schmo audience person, you know? And so what I'm saying back to the person, that could really help save the piece. So that's read number 1. Read number 2, I've already, as the designer, researched, just like you have, who am I speaking to? I get right in their shoes and I become them. Whether I'm a man with a prostate problem, a memory problem, maybe I have joint pain, a finance piece, it does not matter. These skills are going to help you for the rest of your career. So I become that person and I say, you know, I lost a lot of money in the past. I didn't save. My wife is really expecting me to gain a lot of money for our retirement. You know, I'm looking for the next new thing, you know, so I get in that mood. I'm old. I can't see. My eyes are bad. You know, I can't read a lot. I can't, you know, whatever it is, my trust factor is going off. So I become that person. Again, I mark up that copy and find out where problems arise. Then lastly, I read it on a marketing end and make sure things stack up and make sense. Are you giving me this for $200? Is it, you know, this? What do I get? Do I understand the offer? Some people will write this eloquent copy and, you know, reasoning behind buying the service. It'll all make sense. Then you get to the offer and it's like, what? Why am I getting that? How many years? What is it? And it'll be a big mess. That can really blow your whole topic, your whole reasoning behind selling like this. So we are working now on training the designers to do, like, since I've been doing this for a million years, I can read and do all those 3 things at one time. Look, what am I looking for? Here's a, you know, so that is so critical. So know that that is going on. No one is just plopping in your copy and, you know, it's Wednesday, I'm feeling like a little red and maybe this font or whatever. These are all concise, exact, you know, choices. This font will make you feel like this. This font will resonate better with this type of topic and these subheads. So hopefully this little presentation will kind of walk you through how we work.
And one other thing is, if you are ever getting the sense that a designer working on your promo hasn't read the copy, either call them out on it or let me know, because that is something that we have really been trying to push. You know, we were operating at we still are operating such a like go level, right? We're just trying to get as much out there as possible. But if we're not being also mindful and careful and, you know, examining the copy and making sure we understand it, we aren't going to be doing our best work either. So, you know, you can definitely hold them accountable or let me know, but they should be asking you questions and all of that before, you know, they even get started. So if you ever run into any of that, just let me know, because that's definitely something that we want to keep doing and keep pushing forward.
And one thing, those are all great points. One thing that we've been talking about, but we don't know if we're going to be doing this, but with other companies, I've come up with just a series of a few questions. So they're just on a sheet and you just start it every time. And I'm hoping to just hone in on those top 8, 10 things that will be like, boom, once that designer hears this, has this ever ran before? Is this a new product? What did they buy last time? Was it 3-year order? And you know, there's some things that will help us so much, you know, when we're starting this design. Yes.
I'm a little confused about the structure. Like that today, we just submitted like a final draft, but today we'll probably be going over design. I was under the impression that our imprint had a designer that I would work with, so I don't.
Mm-hmm.
Could you just clarify? Like,
Oh yeah. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
So I'm part of the central team, and I've trained all the designers that are on all the imprints. And we still meet on a weekly basis and like talk about what we're working on, or you know, just talk about, you know, we have like a couple big projects that I have for all the designers as well. But they all are imprint based, and so if you're doing paradigm stuff, it'll be Hope, and we just hired another designer, Christian. But like yeah, each imprint has their own designer. But I'm also here to facilitate making sure that, you know, they're keeping up with what's they should be doing and all of that. So yeah, that's sort of the structure. Does that kind of help? Okay, cool. Awesome.
All right, great. So let's get started. So the main thing today I want you to understand is that all of us here in this room and all the designers, everybody must get your reader to hop onto the copy, stick on there long enough so we can make them trust us, and then we must keep their attention going the whole way through with all these little tactics we know so that they can read and read enough so that they will go down and they'll probably check and see like how much it costs, can they afford it, they'll investigate it a little more, and then boom, they'll sign on. So that's the whole process. So there's all these little tips and tricks that we do together to try to make that happen. So great copy secret weapon, how to write layout and graphics can boost your response. And I am not lying, I've done head-to-head design tests, same copy, same offer, and seeing like, 300% more orders because it's been done better and correctly. I don't mean fancier, prettier, or anything. A lot of my designs are rot gut ugly, but they totally resonate to that person sitting in that chair looking on their phone. So we have an endless sea of information. Everybody knows that already, and it just, every year that I give these talks, it gets worse and worse. We got mail going on, emails. So we've got to reach who we're talking to. We must figure out a way to reach them with our words and with what we're showing them, whether it's print, online, it doesn't really matter. So here's the 3 things that all of us must keep in mind. That first of all, we have to steal their heart away from what they're doing. We have to seize and hold their attention, and then these things coupled together, we have to find a way to boost our response. I'm in this to get as many orders and make them stay on for a lifetime. I'm not talking about just one-time order with us. I mean a lifetime where we create that ultimate customer experience. So every time they see our name again and again and again, and they don't want to stop ordering. I'm serious about this. All right, so we have to find out who these people are that we're talking to, because if you're just pretending like like you think it's a 60-year-old man or something, that is not going to be enough. We need to know, like, are they comfortable on the internet? Are they comfortable ordering? How do they read? What type of titles resonate with them? What kind of products resonate? So just as you guys are reviewing your packet that you get or doing your research, the design team is doing the same thing. And Megan, I just want to make sure I say this in the right amount of time, but please just holler out and say, wait a minute, Lori, let me say something else.
So as far as like finding out all of that information, right? Like that's not something that you guys will just be like, oh, who do I go to find out what they're doing at 4 p.m.? That's something that we're looking into as designers and getting into the data to figure out their behaviors, what they're interested in, what kind of cards they own, all of that stuff. And then we're going to be like building avatars and informing you guys as like the months go on. And
That'll be useful.
yeah, it's going to be like, even just this last week, I was just looking at like when they're on their computers the most, and it was like, I can't remember what it was, but I remember being surprised and being like, what? They're on at like 2 p.m. And I'm like, okay, well, I would think in the morning, like, and there's just like a lot, like, there's a lot of stuff like that we're going to be finding out as we move on. That's really going to help us figure out how to strategically write the copy and strategically, build designs and stuff like that. So that's something moving forward that, we're going to be doing for you guys.
Yeah, so did you get that? So we wrote exact questions, like 1 million questions for a survey. So we'll get all those analytics back and we'll be able to figure out, like one of them is, what is your morning ritual? What is your daily ritual? A lot of these people, like they've had great jobs, they had big jobs, they didn't save properly, but now they don't work very much. Maybe they're retired, they work a little bit in the morning, then they go out and do something fun. Maybe they're up really late at night because they have a really nice office in their home and they're on a huge monitor and they spend 2 or 3 hours on the internet. We need to know that so we can tell that, yes, they will have ample time to sit there and read. And with this market, normally they do have more time to read than, say, a busy 42-year-old soccer mom that I'm trying to sell that fancy face cream, to. She's driving around, she has a job, she doesn't have much time to look at my stuff. These people lasso them in, make them want to hang on every word, read it all, and sign up. So you need to find out what do they need to see and hear. A lot of writers will use words that are outside of the zone that those people can even understand. I had to edit some copy this weekend, kind of in a rush, and it was, although copy was great, maybe 5 of the core words sprinkled in were just too far high above the level. Do you guys talk about that?
I got a question.
Yeah.
I understand that means art is gonna be adding copy.
Oh, no, sorry. I'm a little different than most art people. Yeah. Art will not edit copy. Sorry, I should make that clear. I'm a little different animal, because I've done this a million years. And when I work with a A-lister or B-lister or whatever, we are really tight, and we know that obviously I wouldn't just go in and change copy. That is such a great point. Sorry. But I would bring it to their attention. When I did those first 3 reads, I would say, these few words, what was it? I think it's like the word menisci or something. Like none of the people on this, thing that I was reviewing, there's no way. And it was right in the first paragraph. They've been like, I'm embarrassed. I don't know what that word is. I don't know. Maybe this product isn't for me or whatever. So great point.
Or maybe it's a matter of establishing credibility by hitting them with a word that they don't know. Wow, this guy must really know what he's talking about.
That is true.
There's no logic.
Yeah, that's a great idea. You're absolutely right. So that is a very good point, is that sometimes if you do use a new trend or twist or term or something like that, and then back it up, obviously, properly, then they're going to be very intrigued by that and impressed.
Yeah, and I think it just comes back to, if we're invested in your copy, if there's something we don't understand, we should be bringing it up.
Yeah.
And if you guys, obviously, if you're like, oh yeah, I did that on purpose, I thought it through, obviously, but the way that we're going to be invested in the copy is by asking like these types of questions, just to make sure that we're understanding the point of view that you guys are trying to.
So one of the things we teach in this camp is extreme ownership, and that's one of the things is that at the end of the day, the copywriter owns their copy. But the other flip side of extreme ownership is you should be welcoming any challenges to your copy.
Absolutely.
There doesn't mean you don't want to. So if someone comes to you and says, "I don't understand this," your response shouldn't be like, "How dare you?"
Yeah.
You should be soliciting as much feedback in that sense, especially in things as far as like understanding, because that could break your copy where maybe you thought you were being smart and building credibility, which is a technique by using some jargon or something, but if that person gets confused, then they're gone.
That's great.
Well, what you said earlier about how the artists have to give it a cold read, boy, that's going to be invaluable because we spend so much time with this stuff that it's obvious to us what we mean, and we need a sounding board beyond simply the publisher or whatever, because maybe they've got cursed knowledge too.
Yeah.
We need that feedback from you to be like, what does this mean? And if too many people ask what this means, we gotta think about whether it's right to put this guy in there.
Yeah. It's like we're like the third person on stage.
Understand that you were gonna make Chad without.
That like gives me a heart attack because then somebody's like, who made that change, and then it would be us.
Oh,
And that would be all.
no, right.
Never
And
do that.
sometimes I will, just so you know how you could do it, or you could talk to your designer like this. Hey, something pops out at you and you're just totally drawing a blank or whatever, shoot me an email. So I'll just block onto this on page 4. Hey, this was kind of, I was so lost here. Now, one time I will tell you, one huge time, little things happen all the time. Working with a company, they've been working on the copy for like 3 months, back and forth. Some legal problem, then they changed the name of the product. Something happened. So they gave me the copy, and I just happened to do my 3-part read, designing with it. I was presenting it. I was so confused near the end. I could not find a close at all. I felt so embarrassed. You might have heard me talk about this before, but I just decided to, get my stuff together, and I said that I didn't understand the end. It didn't feel like it closed. It hopped right to something else, and then the signature, I felt like I was left, totally undone. So they had accidentally had somebody make some edits, and 3 or 4 paragraphs. I have shivers. This was a very tight rush, as you know. Hurry, let's get it out. So it had to go out, and it could have saved. This was print. This was not online. So you catch something like that, 500,000, 1 million pieces. You mail them. This could have annihilated all that time and money and all of these creatives' efforts. So it is truly up to all of us together. And I've been working with this team here at Agora for a while now. Everybody is gung-ho at pairing up with you and making those 20, 30, $40 million winners again and again and again. And this is how it's done. I get so excited. All right, so just know who you're talking to. I'm going to try to rush through a couple of these slides so we can look at some of these quick designs. But I'm working with a team now, and Megan and I are doing those surveys. We're building avatars. We're going to show photos. We're going to do some recordings. You are going to be able to really just figure out who this person is exactly.
I have a dumb question about that.
Yeah. Right.
How do we control for the truism that within any subset of people, the ones that respond to surveys tend to...
Right. You're only getting the data back from people who,
Yeah,
but it's going to be better than just what's in my, and we're technically able to flip it around, change it, shorten it, so we're fooling around with that. So we'll keep you posted on that, but I'm excited about having at least something. All right, so we want to seize, hold, and direct their attention, and that is where, although you do that with your words, you kind of do a crescendo, and at the end, you really spice them up more. Now, don't forget, you got to do this now, and so at the same time, the copy is doing that. The designers, since they know the copy so intimately now, they will know when and how to do that. You don't want to be drawing all kinds of attention to this one big chunk and not to the right places or bringing them down. In this case, most of the time, we're talking about online. Okay, some of the examples I'm going to show you are print. It does not matter at all whether we're talking about print or online. Print just happens to be like this, and you open pages, Online just happens to go down. So this is a huge winner, John Ford. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but he wrote this piece. I call him John and Jack. Every time I say John, the people know him as Jack, vice versa. So I should call him John Jack. He is one of the, obviously, a superstar lister, but he will write notes. He will ask me for a call. He will say, Lori, I want it like this, like that, like this. Remade in America, we had to have a particular look. It couldn't be too fancy. It couldn't be too fresh or slick. I bet I did the design 5 or 6 times for that top and those stars. And I think it ran in red and blue as well. But this was so successful. Not only did we mail it a quadrillion times or whatever, but it went into 15 or 18 publications, as a ride along, because I did every single version of it. But in any case, this is a case where he had an idea in his mind about how those stars looked. And I'm so embarrassed to say that I did these perfect stars, yes, this is going to look so good, John, or Jack's going to love it. And in the end, I think Kitty was working on this as well. We went with these kind of scratchy rubber stamp fonts, stars, and you'll see when you get through this, is this my most beautiful design? No. You know what I mean? Does this, or did it resonate and hit the reader on the head with this theme that he had that worked visually exactly how he felt that copy needed to look? So that remade Again, I did that 4 or 5 times. Look at the, let me see my little guy here if he's working. Look at that, oh, it's not gonna go on the screen. Dang. Okay, look at the second subhead. Do you see how many points? You have the little eyebrow at the top. You have the remade in America. That's big and huge. You have a subhead, and then you have a subhead, for crying out loud. You have to figure out, and the same look could happen successfully online. You just have to know. If you had just any old designer here, they could have made, the remade in America big, but the other two, the same size, the same color, a different font, hard to read, all capital letters. I don't know, but there's some pretty horrible ways that you could do that. So you want to be looking out for these things, but that's what your designer is trained to do. That's what we've been working so readily on. What is the font? Look, there's no fancy fonts here. This is not fancy design. Sorry I can't point to it, but you'll see the width of the copy here. It's not all jammed up. It's easy to read. People want to stay on it. I'm just going to give you a little quickie, big view. You see that black copy? If you thought life was good before the crisis, see how it's italic? Only it's italic. It's a little smaller. It goes boom, the hierarchy, boom, 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 all the way down, forcing you to want to start with the Dear Reader. On this one, we use 2 columns. Sometimes in online, we do 2 columns or 1 column with like a sidebar. Just be aware that it does matter, the width. So if you're feeling like you're having to turn your head, that was one situation that I pointed out on the first day, is that we had our copy going so wide from one end to the other that it was just impossible. A person's vision levels like in here. So if you're seeing a proof of your copy in a design and you're noticing things, you need to point it out to the writer. Just like, hey, this is just hard for me to read. This font just seems too small. We also had fonts that were too small and some that were a little hard to read. So we've got that honed down now. We're set.
If you were doing that online, would you have brought a single column there? Or would you have
Yeah, I would have went to single column. And I was going to say is we were my agency was one of the first people to really nail some of these huge winners. The width has shrunk even over the last 2 years.
Yes, it has.
Yeah, isn't that funny? And you probably noticed that too.
What I said, it's like people reading on tablets more or phones.
People are reading phones and tablets more, and just the attention level is just diminishing. They have.
So it looks like less copy.
Yep, I was about to say, it looks, really they're scrolling way
Isn't
more,
that- Mhm.
but it's way easier to read if the columns are skinnier.
Right. Well, and what Megan and I have done, and I do this with other companies, is I don't know if you've heard of a heat map or a video map or Hotjar, those types of things. We are implementing so that we can look at even more of those and more deeply. But this is what we just summarized this last week, is that they see that hard-hitting head, everybody's hot on that. They read those first few paragraphs. Then there's some skimming. We'd all like to feel like every single beautiful word that we wrote, they're going to read. They are skimming. Then maybe they'll see a photo, a visual. Their boredom level this year, as opposed to even 2 years ago, is just amazing. So now, more than ever, we must hold them on. So we're doing captions under photos, a chart, a subhead. So we're seeing them go down a little ways, kind of finagle, kind of look at some subheads, dwindling. So that's, we must hold them on. Then they're going all the way down to the bottom to see if they can afford it or what the whole shenanigans is all about. They might have some questions, so we're going to talk maybe a little bit someday about the FAQs, or the frequently asked questions. But these days when writers present copy, and I don't see the FAQ, I always ask them, or if they know something, maybe they've tested out of it. But we feel like they probably have a couple quick questions. They'll get those answered. Maybe they'll check some details, but then they'll click. I don't know if you guys are using this, but in my company, we've coded a right-hand ready to order button that pops up when I say it should after.
That's something we've been looking at testing for a while. It's
Yeah.
like it's like they get halfway down the
man.
page. Yeah, it flows and follows.
Flows.
Yep.
And I can change the color. Yeah, that's,
So yeah.
so you
So
can
the FAQs
decide.
you're saying at the bottom of the promo as opposed to bottom of the formal code duplicated or whatever?
The FAQ, I usually put down at the bottom. It all depends on how the copy goes, but there's usually a click above, a click below, it all depends. I have to see it,
But of the promo,
Right.
rather than there, sometimes we offload that to the order form and I've never been certain which way.
Yeah,
It's one of those things that I want to test again.
yeah.
Like when I first started here 2 years ago, we had the FAQs at the bottom of the promo.
Yes.
And then now they aren't there. I don't really know what happened, but it's one of those things where it's, if it's working other places, it's definitely worth reinvestigating. I know that they're at the bottom of our order form.
It's like lazy kept writing.
Oh, okay. That's all right.
We are going to be doing a thorough deep dive testing of that
Yeah.
and the reply forms. 1 column, 2 columns.
Yeah.
It's okay, even if you're writing only for finance, to keep looking at health. Health, I still look at the finance, because they kind of tell you something about what's happening with humans or the audiences. So, if you happen to see other people's promos, investigate them, see. If you keep seeing it again and again, obviously it's,
Larry,
yes.
I know it's not grammatically correct, but in terms of readability, would you recommend a comma before an and? Because I've seen a few others do that.
I don't use a comma before and. No. What is your
You
style?
use the Oxford comma?
No, I don't, because I feel like it stops people from reading, and I'm all about readability, but
Yeah.
that's just me. Whatever they tell you here.
I mean, usually this is getting really kind of opinion level, but 'cause I don't know if a comma would even really make that much difference. I use the AP style if I have questions like that, just because I feel like that's what most people's media consumption is, AP style. If they read any kind of newspaper or magazine, that's just a comment. I think the AP style, you do not put the comma before and and.
What is AP?
AP, it's Associated Press. It's just a style book. You can buy it at Amazon. It's a good idea to get if you're just curious about having a standard for. I mean, for me, I haven't even looked at it anymore. I'm just going to be in green. But
Yeah.
Yeah, but what if it's necessary for clarity, like you say, the conference was attended by 3 interns, 2 accountants, and a lawyer. If the comma is not there, it sounds like it's 6 people. If the comma is there, it sounds like 3 interns, 2 accountants, and an attorney.
Right.
It could read as the interns were specialized in.
Oh, you need to rewrite your copy.
So when that comma adds clarity, when it does not, maybe leave it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Usually you can sell a lot, but just make it.
Sure.
I wanted to say one other thing about the video maps, like the video grabs,
Oh,
screen
yeah.
grabs. So we're looking into actually getting those because, like Laura was saying, the first time I watched a customer interact with one of our promos, it was, you have this idea, you're like, yeah, they're skim reading. When you watch someone skim read your copy, and that's someone that you are trying to, it is like my heart raced. I was like, what are they doing? Like, what are you doing? And it is like, I think it was TK Halify, which is one of the best performing promos of last year. And they just skimmed it. And I was like, what are you doing? I'm concerned because they're flying back all past all my graphics and stuff, but the try, I worked so hard on that. We had the ability to do that, and now we're working with trying to get it back because of just compliancy issues, but we will have it back, and that's something that I want to have everybody, available to see, because it is mind-blowing. It's great because it really helps you understand, but it also really hurts. You're like, what are you doing? You didn't even commit, and then sometimes what will happen is they'll skim all the way down and just click buy, and you're like, okay, I guess I convinced you. It's
Yeah.
crazy. So That's something I really the reaction I had to it was like so intense that I just like want everybody to be able to see that because it will really help. Yeah.
Is there a way to see like the person looking at the promo and then looking at the order form?
Yeah, so it
Same
follows
person?
them.
Oh.
Yeah.
It can follow them from BSL if
Right.
they click off to the transcript
Okay.
HTML and then onto the order form. So it follows them
You can
all the way
follow
through.
them.
Yeah.
We should really get something like that so you guys can look at it because I think it'll really give you a helpful edge.
And I'm just basically repeating what you just said because this is like the third or fourth time that this has come up at Copy Camp, and everyone's like, we really should look at that, but we haven't looked at it.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I mean, like,
Okay, we will.
can we just like get an email attachment to the video
Yeah.
or something?
Yeah.
Like,
That's the
that's a good
goal.
idea.
So we had it, and then because of compliance issues with the software that we're using, it got shut down. We're investigating getting it back there. I'm hoping it should be like this week or next week. And then from there, I'm just gonna, I think, have like a repository where I just throw stuff or get you guys on it so that you can
Right.
see it. I think we have a limitation on how many people we can have logged on, so it might have to be like one login. But either way, it's something that's super useful for everybody to see. So it just needs to happen.
Mhm.
Because this was like months ago when I first saw it, and back when we had the availability to use it. So we just need to get back on it because it was just mind blowing.
and every person who's presented the idea, like, you guys really should see this. They always say, it totally changed my world,
Yeah.
and then we never
And
see
then you're
it.
like, but you don't get to see it.
I was
Take
just
our
telling
word
you, like Jim, I think what you're gonna realize is what I told you guys before, that nobody wants to read your shit.
Right.
Yeah.
What's gonna be interesting is when we find out those dynamics, those metrics, and we shorten our copy or change our copy, will that negatively adversely affect response because maybe the act of skipping copy
Yeah,
is in
they
itself.
need
Okay,
that
I
mental.
understand this. I can feel superior. I don't need to read the rest of this. I can go directly. So it doesn't mean that we shouldn't write the copy in the middle. It just means that there might be something we don't understand about a pathological need to skip ahead or whatever, because it makes people feel.
We don't know what,
Knowledgeable.
we don't know what
We don't know
resonates
what,
what.
right?
yeah. Yeah,
It's
give
not, it's not really,
Right.
it's not statistically valid information.
Right.
Anyway.
Yeah.
It's the only real statistical value is the conversion rate.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think it'd be useful because, like, if you're sweating, like losing sleep over one paragraph or something, it's really, yeah. So it looks, it's more like allocating your time and resources, like we talked about before, like 80% of it should be on the idea. I mean, it's, like, one word is not gonna make or break.
That is such a great thing that I didn't bring up, and that's what I'm working with the design team. They have so much work to do, and it takes so long. So I must find a way to show them where those hot spots are, where it's gonna matter. When you're talking about direct mail and there's 24 pages, some clients of mine will get stuck, just like you said. Page 19, the third paragraph, for the love of God, get off it, get on that headline. Because if you don't make them open up that first page, it's not gonna matter what any of those other pages say. So just like Ryan just
Yeah,
said.
it's the 80-20 rule in all
Yeah.
cases. I mean, really 20% of what's in your program. And like that's where design comes, it's important, I think, though, is that like, if you can remove the stumbling blocks,
Right.
that's extremely useful. Whereas, like if something just looks wrong with somebody, it doesn't matter what the message is then, so you just can skip it.
Right. They can be afraid of it. So I'm going to just blast through a couple of these pages just to show you. I'm pointing there to subheads. I'm pointing to idea generators, different ways of reading copy, whether it's in a testimonial or a pop-out quote, whether it's in a subhead. Some of my copywriters will give me what's the guy named Belcher? What's the big
Harry.
Harry Belcher. I was just with him and he was like, you know what I do? I write my big headline, I have my idea, and I just do 20 subheads. And the subheads add up to telling the whole story. I don't want to say that out loud if that's something that we don't do here, but I'm just saying, dang it all, that must tell you something about the importance of subheads and how they sound and the reasoning behind them. So let's look at these photos. These particular photos you'll see, I specifically did them in the black and white. we had the use of color, but it gave that remade in America feel, you know, kind of crappy, down and dirty, old photos. You'll see, in this sense, I used a rule or a line in between. That might happen online if we show them a couple different columns. Right now, what is trending or what is working, what is winning and resonating the best is one column, but you might have some sidebars. Again, like spacing matters. We've been working very diligently on making templates for ourselves in certain type fonts. As you know, these old people grew up reading the New York Times, Washington Post, you know, Baltimore Sun, whatever. The more we can kind of emulate, oh, this is, you know, this is nothing fancy and new that, you know, we're online and this is a slick computer or whatever. Look, it's just like you used to read. You know, some of the fonts you'll notice in what we do are regular and very familiar and just so easy for the tired old eyes to see.
I noticed on some other promos, I don't think Agora does it, but there was like a button in the bottom right hand corner, you can click it and it would like automatically resize the font to like 14, 16, something like that.
Wow.
Have you seen
Yeah,
that?
that is cool. I haven't done that, but you know, we have reformatted pretty much all the templates we're using to a way bigger font.
Right.
And
It was instant, so I could, you say it was in 12.
that's
Like,
interesting.
March type. It's a little-
Yeah.
Yeah, you see that?
Yeah, I need that
Yeah.
button. I can't do anything. No, that's a great point, though. Anything like that, any kind of technology that's going to help them. I'm just pointing out here some pop-ups, things that disrupt the reader enough to make them want to lock into it, but it also can entice them if they're getting sloppy and lazy and tired and they're not going to read every word. You can say the same or basic information, a quote, something that validates it, testimonial, in a box. It doesn't have to be fancy, but it can just be a starlight and they will go down to that darker zone, read it, and then hopefully we'll get them down. Photos and charts help. I'm going to go through this pretty quickly. See these subheads? These subheads have like a little unique specificity to them. They are numbered. This number 1, number 2, number 3. Like John, Mr. Ford understands that people, if they see number 1 or a number 2, they're going to look for number 3, number 4, number 5. So it works for finance. Health, we do that. Here's the 5 ways to beat cancer. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. People will look for that. Here's one trick. Sometimes we'll start talking about it. I'm going to tell you the 5 ways to make more money in the stock market, whatever it is. You'll tell them the first 2. We won't start numbering them huge until either number 2 or number 3. It'll make them look. Maybe you don't say number 4, number 5's down here. Something to really keep them engaged. We try everything. I show some little visual of the reports or whatever you're giving away for free, the books. They must look good and juicy and like you can't be without them. And also titling the reports. Do the writers typically title the reports here?
Yeah.
Make sure not to wait till the last second. The same thing with the reply form. You know, those titles can really help you push the sale. Don't just dial it in. Think about it. You know what I do? I go to the bookstore once a week. I take photos of the books that are winning, and I look not only at the design and the colors of the top selling books there are, but also how the titles are. Sometimes it'll be trending for 3-word titles, 2-word titles. Sometimes they're long. Really, really pay special attention.
So with the promo that Rob and I are working on, just submitted today, with our bonus reports, we have like a 2 to 3 word title, like disaster-proof portfolio. That's like the title.
Yeah.
But then for our skimming reader, I put colon, and whenever you title it, it'll probably just say other port disaster-proof portfolio. Then it says 3 strategies to protect your blah, 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 blah. So like, even if they are super skimming, once they see the title, they can already see what the content is. And then even if they skip all that little copy and all that other stuff, they know.
No, you're absolutely right. And what we'll be doing on the design end is we'll be looking at it we'll fool around with the best visual, the best font, you know, to make them look so valuable. A lot of times, if you have that colon and all that copy after it, we will leave that off of the design because it'll get so small, and I don't want them to focus on too much. You've already set it here, and I'll make sure the copy's here. So just so you know, that's one of the tactics that we use together, along with those starbursts that says your free copy. That is a little quick tip that you know, top writers have told me, is that instead of putting one of those starbursts, and I bet here, let's see if I have one. Instead of putting a starburst that says, you know, free, just free. David Deutsch taught me this. If you put on there your free report, your free book, whatever it is, not even just free report, it's like if you didn't read those 15 paragraphs that says, oh, you get this for free, it's yours for free if you sign on, and even if you quit at any time, you can still keep these goodies for free. Make sure everything is clear. Those types of things, I am positive. All of this adds up. You want to do all of these things. Am I okay on time? Because I can go.
9:05, I think, 9:10.
Okay.
Yeah, about 15 more.
Okay, great. I'm just going to point out a couple of the other things visually that we can do together, and Megan and her team will be thinking of this, just so you know. Even if you don't put a huge, you know, number 1, or even if you don't do a drop capital letter, which means a big, huge R and then the copies around it, those are the types of things we're trying to do. Maybe you had a whole bunch of copy, not many subheads, and you're talking about something new. Well, we will maybe try a big capital, a number, something that'll just spark them. Maybe a lot of times lately, I've been working with them. If there's run-on copy of a list, maybe 10 things, boats, cars, buses, trains, whatever. If it's so important and we haven't had some interesting indents and things earlier, I will have them break it up with a bullet. And once they see that, they can see the subhead, go down here, go down to the photo and the caption, see the chart, and it'll all start making sense to them. All kinds of tips and tricks. Uh-oh. Megan, can you do some magic?
No.
Mhm.
Why?
Is it tricky? I wonder.
It should only take a second.
Oh.
Yeah, it was doing it. Did that earlier. Hello. Looking.
I have a quick question when you're doing that.
Yeah.
Have you ever tried to use images like subheads so you like tell a story along with the subheads? Like I saw a good promo and it was talking about like investment, like West Texas investment, like show oil derricks and the guy driving around his truck and it was like that, and he's telling the story right along with the subheads. I mean, have you tried to
I don't know if I've done that for finance, but
Mhm.
maybe with health or whatever.
Okay.
But that is a great idea. And if it's done right, kind of, I can see it happening in like an editorial way. You know, maybe you have the photo here
Mhm.
and the topic
sure.
next to it or the type next to it. That is one trick, or I'm trying to tell you a lot of things so you can kind of know what to look for. You know, it's going to be your first time soon writing copy and seeing something. And who knows, maybe we could even just do a little something at some point later where, you know, you're going to want to communicate to the designer. Maybe you want to be able to know how to make some notes or how to use your words so that they understand. But one tip that I've been seeing lately that I'm noticing might be something to be on top of is online with this thinner column like this. If you, too bad we don't have the sketch thing up. If you have a photo on the left, right over here, here's your photo, and here's all your words over here. I'm feeling now that they kind of get stuck on that photo and then they have to hop over here to read the words. I'm being very mindful these days of watching out where I put that darn photo. Sometimes I'm forcing people to put, you're absolutely right, put the photo, maybe a testimonial photo over here. I want them at all times, and this is what we're working so deeply with. We're not here about design and to make our stuff look pretty, and you know, we're not doing that at all. It's very different, as you can tell from my voice. So I feel like if you force them to read that copy on the left, then search for the tie-in visual, that might be good. So you could couple it. It could be over here, but just be careful of that. So when you have these feelings and you're looking at the first proof for your first project, you could study this for 500 years, like me, and your rot gut stomach feeling is going to be true. You might not know how to say the words like, that brown is too brown or whatever, but just, I don't know, draw attention. I hopped off here. Boy, this was boring. Woo, you've got way too much color here. This is, just those words. Those are the kind of words back and forth that are helpful, if that's helpful. If you can't get
You
this.
can just show it on that screen there.
Yeah.
And just,
Sorry.
Right. Anna, we only give you so much time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it like
There
kicked me
you
out.
go.
And I wasn't expecting.
Let's see. So maybe let me see if this goes this way. This was another huge winner. I can't remember who wrote this one, but again, is that my best design? No. You know what? You can also share this with them.
Yeah.
I'll give this. I gave this to him, and then you can hear my little voice in the background. Always refer back to this too, because it might make you say like, oh, what did she say about that? But in any case, if you can see, big, huge headline at the top, heavy on the top. We work again and again and again with what we call at the very top of, where you have your headline, your subhead, your lead, you're inviting them in like that. I am working with Megan's team to create 4 or 5 what we call page toppers. We do this at my company. Look, yay! Maybe, let's see. Wait,
Yeah.
how do you control that one? It'll be on that, I think. Wait.
That's what it looked like 5 minutes ago.
Might be a second screen.
Darn it.
Maybe. I'm so
Well, in
sorry.
any case, so we do 4 or 5, different page toppers. I'll have one with a rule with that eyebrow. Do you guys talk about the eyebrow, what an eyebrow is?
yeah, you can
Yeah.
probably redefine it for them.
What I call an eyebrow is that little line, and even though it's right there at the top and it seems so little, it can be little, small, but it could be so maximum big. It could be something like, on October 22nd, some big as all get out things are going to happen in the so-and-so. That little, so we call that an eyebrow in design, and maybe you want to refer to it too. It's like,
I think that's the same as super headline.
yeah. So a lot of times it's small, but it's first. So again and again and again, we must find a way to draw the reader in. Like that one that I was showing you that John wrote, there were 3 or 4 different little things. And the person is trying to see like, wow, do I read the biggest one? Do I read which one's important? So now I'm having them do the headline, the eyebrow, the subhead, sub-subhead, whatever you have, and that lead, those first 4 paragraphs, 4 or 5 times and show it to us, because we need to try, where's the emphasis? Even though the headline is the most important, it might be really long, or it might be only 3 words. Does it need to be bigger, smaller, whatever it is? Because just like we were saying, and you pointed out, one of you, it doesn't matter what's on 38 inches down on that one paragraph. They're never, ever going to get there. So hopefully that's helpful.
You guys should be pre-designing the stuff anyway in Word. Do that rough, emphasis, proportionality in that complex there.
Oh, that's a good idea. And you can see on your page, does anybody have a page and copy? You can see on your copy, if you can look on your 8.5 by 11 piece, if you have all copy on that page, you're going to have a subhead. If it's just 8 paragraphs, there's something wrong there. You need to indent. Oh, goodness, look what we have here. Perfect. Look at what's on this page. This is the telltale heart right here. I can probably turn to any page. Yeah, look at that. There's a subhead on that page. Yep, there's a little something there. There's a subhead. If you have 2 or 3 pages, look at this. This is, who wrote this copy? One of you. Yeah, oh, okay, there you go. So you see that they indented, and there's the check marks. You don't have to be the designer to know that somebody's gonna need, you know, something to switch things up.
Every expansive copy should have some elements.
Charts and graphs, yeah. Pop-ups, pull quotes, anything to validate. Validation right now. Nobody, as you can see what's happening in our society, unfortunately, so many sad things. No one wants to trust anyone. We must, you know, calm them down, invite them in. This is who we are. Here's our amazing editor. They've done this for so long. Any validation, the testimonials, listening to your customer service department. I do that a lot. Go in and just sit in customer service, hear what the hubbub's all about, hear what they're saying. You know, oh, you didn't understand the order? Well, this is what you get. If you keep hearing that, you know, like something's going crazy with how we're telling them.
So you can literally just walk in and just like sit with somebody.
You would ask them first.
Set it up with, set it up, but then I had all my designers, and I think it's part of like the training thing that Lydia does now is she she should be setting that up for you guys, or just reach out to Lydia if you want to sit on customer service. She'll set it up and sit there for an hour, and the stuff you hear, sometimes it's like, I didn't understand this order. Sometimes it's like, I just want everything Jim Rickards does. What is that? I don't care what it is. My hour that I spent, I had a lot of total of that. It was crazy. Some people just didn't understand that they didn't have enough money. Some people didn't understand. And then other people were just like, I want everything Jim Rickards. Do I have everything yet? Like, that was the type of questions we were getting. So,
well, the thing is, like, if you go often enough, that can almost write your promo there. Because I would, at KCI Communications, where we did like personal finance, utility and forecaster, and a variety of publications like this, but not as good, of course. I would sit there during my lunch hour. I know I sound so boring, but they would let me. And that was when print was really big. And those pieces of 8.5 by 11 paper, the reply form, came back. Most people, you know, that's before internet was invented. They would fill those out, mail them back. I would watch them, open them up, and maybe I would do a new campaign, and likely only one time this happened. They're like, nobody can fill out all their numbers, you know, for their credit card. You've done such a fancy design with your artwork that you've made the squares so small. These 75-year-old people can't put their numbers in there, or we can't read them. This is really going to slow down the process. I felt horrible. So go in there and find out what those keywords, the needs, the fears, and the concerns of all those readers are, and that could just really help your promo. I think we're pretty much, I mean, most of this stuff, sprinkles. Oh, this is really quick for the reports. This is for that, for a couple of those $20 million winning online campaigns that I get so excited about hearing when they say that happened. Big, crazy, dramatic covers of those reports. Don't let the report cover look just, okay, whatever, it's fine. Really dig deep on this. I probably did this cover like 10 or 15 times just to get the right shot. And finally, I found this shot of the Liberty, you know, like this on the internet. So it does matter. Beautiful, valuable reports. I don't know if you guys can see. That really make a striking appearance. Now, these are rot gut, you know, down and dirty. This, I tested into this for this particular publication. This might be you guys. Those were perfect because it was very simple. Get this library of 6 reports. Doesn't look too fancy. Yeah, I know we're getting close here. Testimonials pop out. They are really, you know, if you have a chunk of testimonials, ask for more. You want ample testimonials. There's a technical way now. not to stop and interrupt the reader with 30 testimonials. You know, you don't want 30 testimonials here. God bless you. So what we do now is a pop under, which is we show 3 hot ones, and technically we can make it pop under. So if you click here, you know, a whole bunch will stack up and load. We sprinkle them in the copy. You probably have talked about that, where you write them into the copy, and then also where they're outside of the copy. People really, this is one of the hottest tips on testimonials. People look at testimonials like this. They are looking for themselves. So if I have a sore elbow, you know, and I'm Mary from Idaho, and it doesn't matter what product, I am looking in there the whole time like, should my elbow be like this? Should my nest egg be this small? I don't know. You know, and then you'll see John from Mississippi. Boy, I really fudged up by not investing properly. Whoo, so glad I got this newsletter, whatever. And then they're like, I'm not the only person. You know what? This helped him. Wait, I am going to read on, because, you know, maybe it seems like it was easy for him to catch on. He didn't understand. So they will look at those so intimately as well. So be careful. A lot of people leave that to the last second as well. And it's these things that add up. Ones on torn paper, huge ones. The guarantee, naming the guarantee or spending some time on the wording on the guarantee. Again, people aren't trusting you. They're like, they're going to try to trick me somehow. You know, I'm sure it's like I'll owe double or.
The one insight I'm getting that just kind of connect back to some of the session we had a couple weeks ago is the fact that a good design is proof. Just the good design in itself is proof. And like, if you remember back, like the emotional button that your proof is supposed to push is a feeling of certainty. So it's like a lot of like what we're saying kind of sum up. I mean, it should generate a feeling of certainty and also like trust and validation. But that's really kind of the key point of it, where if something seems weird or uncertain or off, that's a problem.
Right. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. I think I just end on the reply. I want to make sure that there's enough time if there are a couple questions. So just in a nutshell, you know, copy is always going to be king. Always, always, always. But design is queen. And together right now, especially, they're just working so hand in hand. And the biggest winners are those ones where those two can, you know, help each other out and really bring forward, you know, that true product or service that you're trying to sell. Yes, indeed. So if there's any questions, either, you know, now or at some point, you're welcome to email me or, you know, go through exactly whatever procedures, protocol that they have set up for you. But I'd love to help you get a huge winner, you know, by adding, you know, some answers or showing you samples or anything like that. This is how we did that. Oh, that is tricky to make you understand. This is how we accomplished that. And thank you for your time together.
Oh, yeah.
That'd be great.
Minute or two, and then.
Okay.
Sure. All right, give it a minute or two.
Yeah. And Megan, thank you for fixing my thing up.
Yeah, sorry to get to work the second time.
I know. You know what? I feel like I need to buy myself something. Pardon me? Oh, yeah. Yeah, and I'll, so just my name, Lori, Lori.
Makes sense.
And then my full name, Lori, Lori, Haller, HALLER.com. Yes, yes, please.
Archive of this, something you marked up explaining what's going on.
Of this little presentation.
Yeah.
I might have recording. I think, was somebody recording it today or no?
Yeah, we're recording it. So
Yeah, so, and I can give Ryan a couple more of these. I actually was gonna use a different one today, but then I started hearing who might be in the room, and I thought that might be just a little too much on the art end or whatever. It's different if the room is a room of writers for like beauty or health. Yeah, some of those photos are just so critical in making people understand like that unique formula or something. It can be tricky.
You like before and after photos?
Yeah, before and after, and also, you know, so many people use turmeric, for example, or so many people use, you know, it's the same old thing. So I try to find other things that, gosh, yeah. I do sound view, Uniscience. I've done boardroom before. NutraHealth, Quantum Health. So who have you worked with?
We did liquid turmeric.
Oh, wow. That sounds cool. Let's see, I was gonna, yeah, see, this is the other one that sometimes I show, but it's so much on pages, you know, page design and stuff. These are kind of some interesting report covers where you, and that's where I get those ideas when I go to the darn bookstore. I will just, for one of my biggest winners, I was actually speaking somewhere in Stanford. I found a bookstore and I was working at night on the campaign, and I took these photos, and it just came to me by going back, you know, my little desk and seeing those designs of those 10 books that were like the bestseller. There was just something in a font and colors and design that resonated. So then I did all the reports. I think there were 6 or 8. And I just feel like, okay, so don't forget. So these humans that we're talking about, they're going to the bookstore too, or they're going on Amazon too. They're reading books too. So they see that same look and they just saw it or they just ordered it. Oh, wait a minute. Have I, you know, it's
familiar.
so much psychology behind it. Yes. So in any case, maybe I will give him this too. And you can look at it and imagine me yammering up there. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah. Let's see. That right? Those.
That's gonna be the
it.
best. It's gonna be like people are gonna buy this whole set just because of you.
All right.
The worst day.
Is that Angie Chung? Ooh, I think I have the vapors.
I think I'm gonna pass on course.
Okay, Lori, I want to thank you guys again.
Oh, thank you
Really
so
good-
much.
good time.
My pleasure to be here.
Okay, so this is, I'm gonna have to step on here a little bit. I had originally decided that door might need on. All right, I was really gonna get into this material in a certain way that was a bit edgy, and I think now that I have a little less time to deal with, it'll be better because I'll just skip and I won't offend everybody. Okay. Anybody talk about the boomerang principle of copywriting? Have you heard that in your copy camp?
No.
Good. You know why? Because it's mine. If you ever hear anybody talking about that, you say, aha, you know Jimbo. Okay, the boomerang theory of copywriting is not just copywriting, it's every kind of writing. It's the boomerang is your point, the point you're trying to make. And the farther you can throw that point out, away from what seems logical and sensible and whatnot, and still get it to come home and resonate at the end, the more your prospect is going to be engaged. The more they're thinking, you know, in certain types of copy, certain types of situations, what are they thinking? What the heck is this guy talking about? That translates into time of engagement and intellectual effort to apprehend what you're talking about. That's an investment of effort that will pay off at the end when they get to the aha moment. The reason I mention that is because that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to do that. I'm going to throw the boomerang out. You guys are like, what? Okay. So it's not PC to say this nowadays, but this copywriting principle, or this how it dovetails into design especially, is actually 200,000 years old. 200,000 years old. Human beings have been on this planet between 200,000 and 300,000 years. We originated in Eastern Africa. And like it or not, we're evolved to hunt. We're hunters, okay? I see a quizzical look here. You just stay with that because you're gonna, right. No, right, we're evolved to hunt. Well, it's not understandable, okay? Because of today's, we learned to grow our own food about 12,000 years ago. Hunting has become a kind of a passe thing. It's like land grant, it's all this stuff. But nonetheless, for 5% of our time, we've learned how to grow food. 95% of our time, as identical Homo sapiens species, identical to what we are now, we subsisted purely by hunting and gathering. And it was the search for more and better and easier game that caused humanity to spread from that tiny climate, a comfortable climate of Eastern Africa and Kenya, to the rest of the world and through some of the harshest environments imaginable, through Siberia, down the land bridge, and all through North America and everything. It was all in search of game. That's what it was. It was all in search of game. And, we share a lot of the most important biological traits of predators, whether that's PC to say or not. We have very large brains, although we don't use them. We have very large brains relative to our body size. We have forward-facing eyes. Most prey species have eyes that are on the sides of their head or close to it so that they can monitor. They have very acute motion vision. We have very acute binocular depth perception and color vision. Our hierarchy of senses is very similar to predators. We're mostly sight hunters, like predators are owls, cats, etc. So, before you guys think of me as some sort of a Neanderthal for pointing this out, although I did recently discover that I have 40% more Neanderthal DNA than the average human. Most people have about 1.5% of our DNA in Neanderthal, and I have 2.5%. So I am a little rough around the edges, a little bit knuckles there. You can see the knuckles have some scars on them from dragging. But the point is, it's actually this 200 millennia evolution into apex predators that we owe livelihoods to. If we were not hunters, if we were not programmed to hunt, none of us would be able to make a living. This industry would not exist. And there's that boomerang, keeps going farther and farther out. I'm going to bring it back, I promise you, to copy and design here in a moment. I'll just got to rush. Okay. So, bottom line, everybody hunts. We all still hunt every day, not just for the caveman stuff, like food and shelter, and we hunt for bargains, we hunt for love, we hunt for, meaning, we hunt for, mates online or on Tinder or whatever. I'm not on Tinder, but, we hunt for success, we hunt for entertainment, we hunt every day, we hunt for something. Even when we're vegging on the couch, think about it, guys. We're vegging on the couch, we're flipping channels. We're not flipping channels randomly, although sometimes, if we're especially stupefied, we are. But we're looking for something. We're looking for something. We don't know what we're looking for. Maybe we're looking for something to hold our attention and whatever, and something that interests us. You're starting to see how design here. Okay. So, bottom line, everybody hunts in the sense that we are wired to seek out things that we want every waking moment. Mostly because we live in a developed time, a developed world, a civilized world, where we don't have to go nomadically scrounging for game. Instead of hunting for physical things, we are hunting for knowledge of one type or another. Not a high-minded knowledge like education, although that's part of it. But we're online searching for a deal on this. We need to buy that. We need to research Jim Ryan to see what kind of crazy quacko he is, before we go see his talk. all this stuff. So knowledge is what a lot of us are hunting 20, a great percentage of our time. It is this search for knowledge that opens a crack that enables us to reach into our prospects' minds, okay? So to prove that, bottom line, everybody hunts. We're all wired to seek out what we want. If we weren't that way, our industry would not exist. To prove that, let's start with a little trip to the grocery store, which of course didn't exist in caveman times, but bear with me. When we go to the grocery store, think about this. When we go to the grocery store, we do not walk in, pick up the first item, and read the label and carefully consider, do we need this item? No, we don't. When we go to the next item, read that, ponder it. Do we carefully consider it? No, we don't. That would take us forever, and it would be sensory overload. We filter out 95% of that stuff right off the bat, because we have what? What do we have? What does everybody take to the grocery store? Right, a list. We got a list, okay? We got a list of things that we're trying to hunt down. We need spices, we need milk, we need toilet paper, we need whatever we need, and that's on our little list, all right? So we, like hunters, like Lori was saying, the very narrow one column, we're evolved to look past every single thing that is clamoring for our attention to hunt down the stuff that we're looking for. However, we are not rigid in this pursuit. We can be enticed by things like, signs, sale signs, or cardboard cutouts of attractive people hawking, something, or free sample tables, or all this stuff. We can be enticed for a moment to stop what we're doing and ponder this other thing. And more often than not, or sometimes, we end up buying that thing. Now, there's a retail principle. Does anybody know what it's called? There's a retail principle that leverages this exact thing. It's called loss leader. Right. You see the circular, you come in for the big screen TV. That's the woolly mammoth you're hunting. The cheap, huge screen TV. Ooh, so you're dragging your knuckles in there, you're looking for the big screen TV, right? But while you're in there, right, there's a special right next to the TV on an entertainment stand for it and a 4-speaker surround sound system and a stereo receiver that's internet capable and pre-wired for all your stuff. And there's a DVD and players or CD, probably Blu-ray players or 4K players, and then there's a stack of So you end up loading up on all this stuff that is high margin. So the thing that you went in there looking for has now become not just that thing, but a bunch of other things, or maybe you don't even leave with the TV, but you leave with the other stuff. Point is that you can go in looking for one thing and you can come out looking for another. And this is something that applies, okay, not just to the grocery store, but any other store we go, anything we look for on the internet, anything we're looking for on television, anytime we go to the bar on Saturday night, anytime we're on match, not show a hand or anything, but, we have this idea in our heads, a lot of times, when we're growing up and going through the ages, and even to this day, of what we think about a perfect mate, like if we're single, some people are single, some people are not, whatever. And then, it's funny to look back, like in my own personal life, and say, boy, I wanted this, I wanted that, or whatever this, and I ended up with this other thing that ended up being better or surprising or more interesting and all this stuff. That comes from 200,000 years ago. I'll show you exactly what I mean by that. 200,000 years ago, 100,000 years ago, right? We got a guy who's hungry, and he's an able-bodied man, needs to feed his family. Maybe he's part of a squad of guys that need to feed their tribe. And they go off, they're armed, they're armed to the teeth. They go off for a woolly mammoth because, that's the best fur, the best protein, the best all this stuff, and they got some tracks and they start following. Problem is, woolly mammoths moves really quickly. Elephants, I've actually been to Africa. Elephants, although they look like they're moving ponderous, their stride is such a gigantic that, you can barely keep up with elephants. You can barely keep up with one. If you try, you can, So they're going after this thing, and it turned to the days because they can't gain any ground on this mammoth. Well, lo and behold, they crossed the tracks of a water buffalo. Now, water buffalo is still a sizable meal, about 2,000 pounds, right? A lot easier to process, a lot easier to carry, a lot less dangerous. And the tracks are an hour old. They change their plan. They go for the water buffalo. They get the water buffalo, they get the meat, and everybody lives for now, right? So these people were out looking for one thing, and they saw something that arrested them from that and took them away from that quest and toward another quest, which they were successful and they were happy to have it, right? Okay. You can see how that dovetails with our industry here, okay? So let me just catch up here. They improvise, they make a plan, they follow, they take down the easy game. It's the same way any kind of hunting that you can do, whatever we're looking for in life. In fact, okay, I already covered that. Okay, how this can translate into sales. Now here's where we start to get back into the synergy between copy and design. So hold on a second. I'll do my marker video act again. What that's called is a target of opportunity. It's something they didn't go out after, but they ended up going for because it was quicker, easier, and higher risk reward, a better risk reward ratio. So imagine if I'm a prospect online and I'm searching around, not that internet searches or how we get our whatever, but let's face it, we're reading the daily news and we're susceptible to the links that we see in there that are sponsored. And, our overarching concern in life is, the thing that we're talking to is retirement, savings, and investment growth and performance dividends and all those great stuff. If we can lay a trail across their consciousness, they're on this track, checking their. If we can lay a trail, an ad, a banner, or whatever, it's the equivalent of a trail that they're crossing that's fresh and different and easier, with higher reward for its risks, they're going to follow it if we do our job. Doesn't matter what they're looking for. It only matters that they're looking. We have the opportunity, if we do it right, to change what they're hunting for. Right? Just like the cavemen did. The stop chasing the mammoth because they could stomp them all into jelly, and they go to the water buffalo. Right? Okay. So if we're skillful, we can get these people to cut on a trail of our creation. And now I'm speaking primarily to front ends, on the display and networks, stuff like that. But it's just as true on emails and dedicated. They're scanning through their inbox, and what are they doing? They're throwing shit out. That's what I'm doing. They'll throw everything out. I don't want to do this. Why did I sign up for this? This is a waste of time. If we can give them a trail, we can cut their quest with a trail that they will follow via subject line or whatever, and then maybe in the email there's some design or whatever to hammer home the point, and then we win. See, we get their attention. That's the first thing, that to arrest their attention, just like what we were saying. She said something great on the call the other day. Variations of the theme were here, but she said it better the other day. We have to lasso them and drag them down, right? Like that. That's hunt. That's not a hunt type of emotion right there. Okay. So, again, not many people find our products, like Joe was saying, by looking for them. Nobody wakes up in the morning, and says, boy, what I really need is a financial newsletter. They don't do that, right? They are looking for, something fast and easy, hot stock tips, especially every back handle. They don't find that through the normal channels. Point is, they're looking for one thing, and we need to convert them to another. And they don't actually want to buy anything. And they definitely don't want to read anything. People hate to read. We just establish that. They can't stand to read. We have to make them read our shit, right? Design helps us do that. Now, here's where I'm going to start to bring the boomerang back. We've talked about everybody hunts. We talked about targets of opportunity. We talked about how to make our copy and design in support of copy, the synergy, into a trail that they can cut that sends them off towards the target of opportunity, which is our products, all right? Everybody clear on that? Okay. The end result, what we're trying to do, is to get them to realize that what we're selling is something that they never knew they always wanted. Remember that. They never knew something they never knew they always wanted. Right? Okay, we have to take them from 0 to 60. Get them to, all have to write that down, but it's worth remembering. So now let's get back to design. Now, Lori and the team, they have all this covered as far as styles and fonts, and we can talk all day about where the widows and orphans in text, which vary based on HTML. You can never get rid of widows and orphans because everybody's screen scaled differently and all this stuff. Rather than talking about that minutiae, which these guys have well in hand, I'm only familiar with it because 20 years ago I got a master's degree in publication design. That's how I know I'm nodding about right. But that was 18 years ago I got the degree, and if you sat me down in front of the computer right now and said, "Okay, Jimbo, design it," you're like, "Are you kidding me? I can tell you where I want this and that and the other, but the program you use now is not coordinating. We're not in that. So what I want to talk about is what you guys can do. I got 15 minutes. It should be 15 minutes. Should be just enough. Things that you guys can do to make this easier and make it better with copy, because copy is a design element. Now, let me prove that to you. I'm going to prove that to you right now. Ready? Prove this to you right now. What does this say? Not a trick. What does it say?
No parking. Violators will cross.
So it's spelled right? Okay. What does it mean? Just translate it in layman's terms. What does this sign mean?
Don't park here.
Or
you're gonna
get in trouble with the man. Right, the fuzz is going to come for you. Don't park here. You're going to get towed, and the fuzz is going to come. Does everybody agree? What does this sign mean? Exactly the same words.
You will not be prosecuted.
You can park here anytime you want without fear of prosecution, right? No parking violators will be prosecuted. That's what that sign means, right? And over here. Imagine the consequences of misinterpreting this sign. No hunting. Weapons prohibited. What if it's no hunting weapons prohibited? I can hunt here with anything I want, right? Okay? And you see the differences in these signs, like larger text, smaller text. This isn't rocket science, right? All caps. That's the main message. These arguments would stand up in court. You know how I know that? Because I once argued this one in court. Lost. I said, Your Honor, how do you know that the sign means no parking? Violators will be prosecuted. I thought it just meant no parking violators will be prosecuted. So it's not such a big deal. He left. She left. And right, fine, the fine was still in place. Now, the funny thing is, it's a personal anecdote. I'm going to veer off just here because it's funny. I learned about this when I was 12 years old. Now, my uncle, who's no longer with us, he died when I was 17. I was named after him, my Uncle Jim. We were best friends. We used to go hunting, fishing every weekend. And he had this crazy way of looking at the world. And looking at words. He was very, very smart, way smarter than I am, which means he had an IQ of about 80. But anyway, the point is, he would make me laugh every day with this kind of shit. And he said, both of those signs, the no hunting weapons prohibited, used to be Maryland State's official boundary sign for state parks. And he used to joke, oh, wow, no hunting weapons prohibited. Let's go. We can go in there now. We can do it, of course. And I'd be like, Uncle Jim, that's not what that means, because I was a kid. I took everything literally. It means no hunting. The weapons are prohibited. And he's like, I know. And so the no parking sign thing too. He wrote that exact thing up when I was 12 years old. I remembered it ever since. In the sense that how we emphasize words, typography, vastly changes its meaning. Go back and read some of your old copy. You will find instances where sentences, the way you've treated them graphically, could be interpreted the wrong way. Like the Oxford comma. Everybody, arguing about less punctuation. Hey, I love punctuation that's unnecessary should be avoided. The actual comma should be used. And I'll give you a perfect example. I looked it up while I wasn't surfing on I wasn't Tindering. Okay, I was looking this up. This sentence, I'm going to read it exactly as written with the punctuation. I'm going to state the punctuation. Top stories, colon, world leaders at Mandela tribute, comma, Obama, Castro handshake and same-sex marriage date set. Exactly. Obama and Castro are going to have a same-sex marriage and they just sealed the deal with a handshake? Now, it's supposed to read, you put the comma in the right place, it's the top stories, colon, world leaders at Mandela tribute, comma, Obama, Castro handshake, comma, and same-sex marriage date set. Now, that makes sense, right? So don't just ditch your punctuation because it's fashionable. Ditch it when it makes sense and keep it when you need it. Brings me to another point. I'm deviating just horribly from this script. But punctuation, what is punctuation? What is punctuation? Think about what is punctuation in the context of design. Punctuation tells us how to read a sentence with the proper emphasis so that we don't get confused and think that Obama and Castro are getting mad. Punctuation is design. It absolutely is design. When you realize that, you'll start to look at punctuation in a different way. The ellipsis, for example, overused. Yes, designers hate it because it's overused. I empathize. Use it. It does three things. It's the most versatile piece of punctuation you got is the ellipsis. It can suggest something more to come on this point. ... The next sentence closes the loop, right? It can also suggest items in a series, or rather than bullet pointing something, which can get tedious. You can have 6 sentences all with ellipsis, and everybody knows that these things are stacking up toward a summary point, boom, in a punchy sentence below. They can also add gravitas. They can indicate that this is something I need to think about. And if I am smart, I will ponder this point. Just leave it hanging with an ellipsis. Don't overuse it. I don't overuse it. But there's an appropriate use of punctuation. The point is that it can become a design element in your copy. Just understand that when you're dealing, when you're laying out these things. Also, again, I got about 6 minutes. So I don't know if they'll actually kick us out. What I was saying earlier, or what I mentioned earlier, you might have heard me say as an aside about we should be pre-designing our copy. That doesn't mean it's a rigid set in stone thing, but Microsoft Word allows you to choose fonts and sizes and center and right justify, left justify. You should pre-design every one of your promos. Now, until you learn, and this is, I don't think to be condescending or anything, I did it too. I could bring you some of my stuff, you got to crack up my early stuff. The tendency is going to be to over-design. You don't want to over-design because it's the new toy and it's cool and it's interesting. What I'm saying is that consider your headlines as a complex, not just as a floating, this is the headline and everything else is just kind of supplemental information. No, the headline is a complex. There's an eyebrow, sometimes it might be left justified. Like if it's center justified, like the Jack Ford example here, it says something generic like, monthly bulletin, November, whatever, breaking news, whatever. But if it's on September 22nd of this year, ... You might want to think about where that eyebrow goes. I think it goes like justified because it'll be the first thing they encounter, and then the headline and your deck, then your copy. Also, it's absolutely true, and I didn't actually see it as much in of course that was older, that was a print example, but every page, it's like a movie preview. A good movie preview starts, boom, with an explosion, right? Or something. Then you've got some expositions, a backstory, then you have another explosion or Schwarzenegger jumping toward the firing mechanism saying, get to the chopper, or whatever, And you come back with a little more exposition, and you got the intrigue close, and then the dark music, right? So you need to give them an explosion of visual excitement every page. And that's more and more true now. It's irritating. I'm an old dog. I'm talking to a bunch of old dogs. And more we're talking to them like what we would talk to younger and younger people who require more visual stimulation. It bothers me, but it's the way of the world. We're not gonna corral the younger audience without doing that. I personally would be content to talk to the old guys until I die and retire, and then forget all about it. But that is not the way, to sustain a business. So I'm going to show you just one or two quick examples again, and I'm going to bring the boomerang back, and I'm going to catch it. All right. What do you think the number one, arguably? You guys do a lot of web surfing, yes?
Yes.
What's the number one by clicks, by engagement, by all the standard metrics? Among our demographic, what's the number one site? Drudge Report. Nothing to it. Nothing to it. It's hideous. It's gaudy. It's got widows and orphans. It's got all sorts of crap. The guy who founded Basecamp, which is one of the things, your design hubs that we all use, one of the design guys, claims this is one of the best design websites ever. He may have said it's the best. Time Magazine ranks it the 8th most influential website in the world, and all the ones above it, none of them are news services. They're all Amazon, Facebook, Google, something, right? I think they say it was the 8th one. Here's the thing that bugs me. I've been following Drudge Report for years to get a handle on who I'm talking to. Not because I agree with anything. They used to have even fewer graphics. It used to be all type, maybe a little picture here. It used to be all black and white. Inset, just here and there, just 2 or 3 a page, right? It was all very clean and lots more space than this between. You can fit all the Drudge Report on one page. Now, they're clunking it up with banners and more photographs and color and whatnot. They've obviously tested, and that's what's working. I mean, they're probably spending cash to. Am I wrong about that?
No, you're absolutely right.
The point is, this is the world that we're living in. When you start thinking that way, and so everything that you write, I want you to, that sounds like it. If it were me, I would be every instance that you could have a meaningful image. You would read your copy and wish for a meaningful image. Spend the time to find one. Go on Shutterstock. Who do we use? Shutterstock and
Yeah, iStock.
Shutterstock. We don't have Getty yet, though.
No, it's mostly Shutterstock.
Shutterstock, and they have a couple different divisions, Alamy and whatnot, don't they? Have a couple.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Point is, go find an image. Now, here, this is going to run at cross purposes with your publishers because they want the stuff boom, boom, boom. They want it now. They want it fast. I'm telling you. You find images that match your stuff. It will help your copy. It will help your readers. And I don't mean to deviate from established, tested, whatever, but there may be times when you don't caption it, if it's an intrigue photo, and it's adjacent to the copy, and you don't want them to just summarize it categorically imperative, put it in their little mental box and dismiss it. You want them to be confused or ponder. So these are guidelines. It's like the Matrix. Once you learn rules, you can break the rules, right? Is that out of line to say?
No, you're absolutely right.
So takeaways, because I'm out of time and I got plenty of material left. Okay. Also, mocking up charts, even if you do it the way Ryan did here. But I'm telling you, and this is from a guy who really left any kind of technology behind literally 18 years ago. When I got that master's, I posed with the master's, I put it on the shelf, and never. I designed my charts in Microsoft Word because I'm stupid. And what I do is, and this is going to sound crazy, but have you ever seen my charts? They're mocked up, and they
look the way.
You go to stockcharts.com. If you want a clean stock line, you deselect all the filters and overlays. You put landscape format so it's nice and big, and then you plug in your stock, your date range, and you will get a clean stock line. Surround it, capture it, take a TIFF of it. Tagged image file format. It's you can do it on Apple. It's called capture or grab. You go down in the bar. Just take a TIFF of it, name it, put it away, then drag that TIFF into a Word doc and use just elementary Word line tools. Sometimes you're going to get them when you draw a line on it. The line will go behind the text. Just select, bring all to front, and it'll bring it to front. Point is, with a little trial and error,
you can mock up charts by yourself with callouts and everything. It'll give Art a rough idea of what you're looking for. Also, this is very, very important, whenever possible, get motion into your charts. Get motion into your, now this is a new, kind of a new territory. In static promos, there's arguably, you don't necessarily want to do this with graphics. You don't necessarily want to have GIFs of graphics because it'll come up on the bottom of the page and people will stop reading because they'll see motion because they got that hunting hawk thing going on. And then they'll go back and need to, so use your judgment. But with charts, like I had a promo recently, did okay. But I was especially proud of the charts because it had this signal that I detected in social media data, the Twitter signal, the positive and negative. It was the profit spy promo, which is still knocking around out there. And then what happened was, it had all these data spikes, and there was an obvious data spike which is supposed to trigger stock market returns. Okay, you can understand that. There's a spike in the data, and it starts on a stock market returns. So instead of just showing charts in series, I had that chart of the data shrink down to a line and reveal behind it the stock chart. Yeah. So you could see the spike and the date and the valley in the stock. It was very effective visually. Just think outside the box with regard to if charts lend themselves, or your material lends itself to some motion, see what you can do with art. Do you agree with that, guys? You agree with that? Okay. 4 takeaways, and then I got to skip a bunch of this stuff. Okay. Just real quick, back to the over-designing point. I'll show you my two of my largest promos, biggest promos. This one here made $10 million. Nothing to it. Now, it's 2010. Things have changed. This one here was even earlier. Look at that headline complex. Tell me that doesn't break some rules. This launched 2 services for AF. One in 2004, one in 2007 or 8. Combined $5 million. Went crazy long. Don't get pigeonholed. You can always test the treatment. Nowadays, I like to do stuff more like, this is just a word printout, and the line spacing is all wrong. But I've got an intriguing graphic here. What the hell are these Ks? Bunch of gains down here. Wall Street wants these. This invites people to find out. I got to figure out what these K signs are, right? It was risky. It worked in this instance, and I think it went over 4 million. Okay, so anyway, don't be afraid to get some graphics nowadays. 4 takeaways. I'll just rifle through them. Okay. In display ads, banner ads, or whatever, when we're trying to corral new business. The copy design synergy should do everything possible to change the prospect's hunt and send them off on a trail that leads to us, to make them convinced that this is a target opportunity that's worth chasing right now. In promos, again, the check against over-designing is when you get to final stage, you're about to submit, of each design element that you have added, ask the following question and be rigorous about it. Does it make my point clearer, my argument more compelling, or my promos more, or my promise more enticing? If the answer is not yes to one or more of those questions, get rid of it. Okay, graphics and design for their own sake is nothing but a waste of time. You not agree with that?
Correct.
Okay.
Can you repeat that real quick?
Yes. Ask the question of every design element that you include or envision. When you get to final stage and you got to picture what your promo looks like. Does this element that I want to add, or I'm thinking about adding, does this design element make my point clearer, my argument more compelling or stronger, or my promise more enticing? Next takeaway is, have I used motion or other attention getters effectively, and not simply for their own sake? And the last takeaway is, when in doubt, leave it out. And that's all I got. Anybody have any questions? No? No? Okay.
That was awesome.
Yeah? All right.
Yeah, we should go on the road together.
Yeah.
All right, real quick, who learned something? This one?
Did nobody learn anything?
Someone had learned something.
That
One
was
person say something and learn.
Well, you know, after
Well,
just showing her Evaldo's film, I just realized, holy crap, like there's like even another invisible thing that I could have totally just glossed over, right?
Yeah.
After she literally just like looked through every page, it's something different. I didn't even see that. I read that film like 3 times already. I still did not see that he was doing this design stuff differently. So it kind of like just blew my mind. Like,
Yeah.
okay, this is like there is some tangible thing behind it.
Yeah.
Kind of a meta thought that I had while listening to both of them, that each of your subheads should be as compelling as a headline.
Yeah.
And not just a fact in bold. You know,
Mhm.
center justified. It's like, no, make it like, oh, what the hell? And then I want to read the next one. Oh, God damn it. What's the next one? It's like, geez, I need to keep reading.
Yeah, you want to give as much of the full story as you can in your subhead. I mean, sometimes I've seen effective like one line subheads, but it still fits within like if you write it sequentially, that one line would still be that one word would still be it still would fit. Cool.
Great.
Next week we got our next session on Wednesday. Scott Bardelli's coming in to talk about the numbers, direct response, and I'll have something else planned as well.
This Wednesday.
This Wednesday, yep.
Thank you so much. It was nice
Thank you.
meeting you. I'm gonna give these, couple of these to them, and, have them share with you. And maybe they'll help you make a I'll just give them a variety of things that might help you. I wish you really feel